you lovely people at home, chances are if you live in England, you were going to have local elections this year. And Angela Rayner, stood up today and said that she's postponing the local elections for millions in a blow to, of course, the surging Reform Party. And we'll discuss a bit more. I want to go through actually how the Labour Party acted to Nigel Farage today. They're terrified. Take that from me. They are absolutely terrified. But Angela Rayner cancelled the local elections for 5.5 million people amid a growing outrage over inflation-busting council tax bills, which, as Alex has pointed out before, they pledged not to do that. They pledged that taxes and all these other things wouldn't rise. Well, they all have. And this comes weeks before the planned polling day. And 9 areas, so if you live in Surrey, if you live in Norfolk, if you live in Suffolk and Thurrock, they'll be postponed to allow for the reorganisation of local authorities. So this reorganisation means district councils will be scrapped and merged into counties to produce these new unitary councils, large beasts. And the idea of that is that you get more council taxpayers into the mix in order to fund things like social care and, dare I say, migrants, in order to actually allow people who aren't just pensioners, for example, in smaller district councils to be part of the mix so that you do get more council taxpayers. That's the argument, apparently, the rationale behind them. Whether or not that's a laudable idea, I think is irrelevant. Because what we have here, my friends, are negotiations in which there will be talks and penny pinching and backroom deals to try and get through this reorganisation of these local authorities. That could take years, right? There's no guarantee that that'll be a matter of months. And if that does take years, then the Labour Party are denying local electors from actually having their say at the ballot box. I can think of nothing more fundamentally anti-democratic than that. And especially when you look at the backdrop. The backdrop is that the Labour Party have collapsed a bit like when I try and make Yorkshire puddings. Faster than that. The polls are utterly damning for their record in government thus far. Reform are surging, and they're losing their rag with them in the House of Commons. And this all, to me, looks a little bit bloody suspect. Am I a conspiracy theorist, Chloe?
You might be. I think what we need, these conspiracy theories, whether they are conspiracy theories or not, we need the vacuum of information to be filled. There's all this speculation of, they're taking away our vote, they're being undemocratic. Well, okay, if you're going to reorganise the councils like this, and that means that you have to cancel some local elections, give us certainty. This is how long it will take to reorganise them, and we will make sure that you get a vote as soon as they are reorganised, as quick as possible. That's going to mean that if it means you have to wait 1 year longer until the next round of local elections, then okay, fine. If these new councils are so much better, then that's okay. But if you just leave people wondering, is it going to be a decade until I get to vote for my local representatives again, that's where you're really worrying people about the state of democracy in this country. And you've left a vacuum for Farage to talk about it and weaponise it against you. So they just need to give us some certainty, to be honest.
Yes, well, good luck with that. I think the certainty is for as long as they can, they will run away from the ballot box because they're absolutely terrified.
People will assume the worst, because we are now at a point where people have completely lost all faith and all trust in the Labour Party. We're at a time where they desperately need, if they want to survive, to restore trust between them and the electorate. If they do not give them a very clear plan on how this is going to work, they're going to really upset people and just make that distrust of the party even worse.
And Connie, well, you can see there on the screen that actually there's an advert for Andrex there, which is quite ironic given that we're talking about shite.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Claire, and it's the same thing again. The government just not explaining to the public And so, like you say, it leaves open a massive gap for everyone else to jump in and accuse them of doing the worst thing possible, which is taking away people's right to vote. And especially when it comes to local elections, in arguably local elections and your local leaders have more of an impact on your day-to-day life than who is actually in government, especially when it comes to obviously local services, other than sort of the way that you're being taxed and stuff like that. So I think it does feel a particular kick in the teeth when, like you say, people are already so unhappy. And it's almost because this has happened, so the weakness of this government has happened so early on in their term, that it's like we're clutching at opportunities to do everything, the public are, to do everything they can to just get some change. And even that small opportunity of a local council election is being taken away from them. It's very demoralising.
Yeah. Christine, by the way, says she's going to show me how to make your proper Yorkshire pudding. So that's nice of her. Thank you, Christine. Alex, on this before I show the clip of how Labour reacted, just in isolation of the local elections being cancelled, do you think you have to be a tin hot foil hat wearing Carol Cadwalder from The Guardian to be, coming up with these kinds of theories?
No, I don't think so. I think the fact that the policy has been so rushed, it wasn't done with any sort of consideration for democracy, says a lot about how Labour value democracy in this country. But let me just paint a little picture for you for a second, because I think this is what runs through my head when I see this kind of stuff. Nigel Farage is Prime Minister. Reform have won a landslide general election, and one of the first things they do is put out a policy that cancels elections in the summer.
Yeah.
What do you think the left and the media are going to say? The front page of every newspaper would be Dictator Farage, fascist, Nazis. This is what we told you would happen, Britain. The double standards here, again, are utterly so blatant and flagrant. And I want the British people to bear that in mind, because if this was a right-wing party doing this, the response to this would be magnificent, over anything you've ever seen before.
I agree.
Regardless of whether, this is going to harm, millions, 5 million people having their right taken away from them. Some of those councils are absolutely horrific. They're getting charged ridiculous amounts of money for their council tax, and they have no right, no power now to unelect those people and say, actually, we want someone who's going to reverse that. They have taken that power off them right when Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner have slapped them with, in some constituencies, some councils, a 10% increase. This is absolutely astonishing.
It is. And you buy my point, right? That I remember when the North East Authority negotiations were taking place, it took years. The idea that this is going to be a quick negotiation, that these unitary authorities are just going to appear from thin air and every single councillor with a chip on their shoulder is going to get together and say, yeah, let's work in harmony.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
If you've ever tried arguing with local councillors, you know that they will argue for 10 years over one fucking pothole.
So are we? Yeah, but my point is,
this is going to take time for them to agree on what the new structure should look like. That's for sure.
Exactly. But are we not going to have a right to vote in the interim whilst this is going on in the background?
You should have a right to decide whether you want this for your local area. This is the crazy thing.
Yes.
This is devolution. Yet British citizens are not being allowed to decide whether they want this. This is devolution to another set of politicians who are intrinsically worse than the ones you put into Westminster. They are worse. They are less qualified. And particularly some councils are just made up with one party, like Liverpool. And in Richmond, where I am, there's just the Liberal Democrats. There's no balance. There's no accountability. And so they'll do whatever they want. It is so incredible to me that we've allowed this to happen.
I agree. The British Patriot says all the people living in those 9 authorities should stop paying the council tax. I don't advocate you doing that because I don't want you to lose your house. But equally, I can understand the sentiment.
We used to have revolutions over this, like we used to have revolutions over like 2% tax charges, and we're now comfortable with what's going on in our country.
That's why America exists.
Exactly.
I
America
think
is
people
is-
went and
B.
fled and started a whole new country because of what, like 1 or 2% tax, and here we are with like loads of people paying over 50% tax after you account for like the VAT they pay at the shops and everything. So many people, they're over half of the money they make is just going to the government. It's bonkers.
And Alex
Where
on
is the
YouTube,
revolution?
we need more revolution. Alex on YouTube says, my council tax is going up 5% in Slough because Labour bankrupted Slough Council when they were in charge. And you're seeing that there are a fair few examples now of that. Paul said, he also said council taxes would be frozen. Or did he mean the pensioners would be frozen? Good point, Paul.
Very good. Very good. I like that.
And Stephen agrees with you, Alex, on that. And I agree with him. That was very good. And Alex also says Starmer is really becoming a dictator more and more, finding loopholes to get off criminal charges, cancelling elections, and using the CPS to get people thrown in jail for going against his narrative. Well, after the end of this stream, I think he's going to find a few more people to lock up. The box says Labour need more of our money to buy the illegals free PlayStations. Yeah, well.
Yeah, and yoga classes and driving lessons
God,
and
that was
circus
something
classes.
Yes.
To be fair
God,
though,
I could not
if
believe
buying
that.
if buying one PlayStation for a whole hotel means that they're not spending their time taking
raping
pictures
girls?
taking pictures of little kids outside of primary schools, then maybe it's a worthwhile investment. Not that they should be there in a hotel in the first place, but just to add a bit of balance, you know.
Yeah, instead
that is ridiculous that that's the situation that we're in. We need to occupy people so that they don't rape and pester little kids.
What are we giving them?
Give them Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. That won't radicalize them. Yeah.
But Connie, you were going to say we're giving them something.
Oh, I was the like you said, Alex, the circus skills thing. That was just like, this is just taking the piss. Like what sort of rehabilitation is that unless they are literally wanting to join the circus? I mean, I guess the arts are dying. That sounds like something Lisa Nandy would be in favour of getting our prisoners back into the circus once they're upon release.
Well, this Labour government, this Labour government could show them a thing or two about a circus.
Took the words out of my mouth, Darren.
The only clown in town is Sir Keir Starmer.